JamesAllen.com is the online destination to easily design a customized engagement ring and save up to 50% compared to traditional stores. You pick a diamond, whether it's lab-created or earth-created, James Allen has over 200,000 conflict-free stones. Then you pick your ring setting and metal. And if you need some help, they have real-time diamond consultations available, where an expert can walk you through it all. Get 25% off your order at JamesAllen.com, code podcast. That's JamesAllen.com, code podcast.
Welcome to the PowerCat Podcast, GoPowerCat.com's Kansas State Athletics Show. Make sure you're subscribing to our show at Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, from the GPC studios, here's your host, GoPowerCat publisher, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to the PowerCat Questions Podcast, your weekly podcast in which the users, the VIPs, the important people over at GoPowerCat.com get to ask us the questions at Wabash Station, our message board, and we answer them on this podcast for all to hear. It's a simple formula. Tim Fitzgerald, Zach Carlson, Cole Carmody, Ryan Gilbert is not with us. And I mean, he's just not here presently. He's feeling under the weather. So if it turns out it's much worse, and then I'll feel bad for saying he's not with us.
I've never understood the phrase under the weather. Isn't everybody technically under the weather?
Let's look this up on the Google machine. Oh, I just hit my mic. Origin of under the weather. Here we go. Oh. On the high seas, when the wind would start to blow hard and the water became rough, crewmen and travelers would go below deck, down to their cabins in order to ride out the storm and avoid becoming seasick. In this way, they literally retreat to a location under the weather. There we go. That's my dramatic reading for this podcast. That dramatic reading was brought to you by Fridge Wholesale Liquor. If you need liquor to do stupid stuff, go to the fridge. If you're Fitz, you can do stupid stuff sober. But he still goes to the fridge. The fridge. At the corner of this and that in the town in which we live. There we go. Segment sponsors are Tanner's and the High-Low. Stop in, say hello. Make sure you come to town. When you come to town, you head to Aggieville, support local businesses, get into Tanner's, watch a lot of football, go down to High-Low, grab a slice, and then stand in the middle of the street and obstruct traffic.
Yeah.
But when you get arrested, don't tell the police that I told you to do it. Are we worried about Gills in any way? He didn't go to the press conference today. He's not here.
I can't confirm he's still alive.
He's still alive. Okay.
Yes.
Well, he did text. Oh, someone texted me with his phone.
Dun, da, da, da.
How's his arm doing?
We'll find out.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, he's got a lot of ailments. I personally think he's just tired of us. He just doesn't like us anymore. Anyhow, we don't like him. So let's move on to your questions from Wabash Station. No doubt about who's reading them this week.
Yes.
Cole Carmody.
First question comes from Mr. Dadman. Very important question. Why does K-State struggle so much in the third quarter?
I don't know. At this point, it's got to be something in what they're doing. Systematically, it has to be something. I just, not being privy to what happens at halftime. I mean, maybe Chris Kleiman learned a lot of stuff from coaches that won a lot of football games, but he learned half times from Mac Brown. I don't know. He's handing out PB&Js and lemonades in the locker room. I don't know what's going on. Literally, it's baffling and concerning. And I'm concerned that they're so bad in the third quarter.
K-State started with the ball how many times this year for the second half? They've lost every coin toss,
I think they've lost every coin toss. Yeah.
Yeah. I think
so
that might be half of it is they got to come out and they have to defend first so they fall flat. They don't get to go out and make a statement. You know, maybe that's a little bit of it. I don't think that's everything, but
I think we can all agree Noah Johnson's screwing up the toss.
Is he the one that calls it?
I think so. I'm just throwing him under the bus.
They've never called it. They've been the home team all three times.
True. But it's still Noah Johnson's fault.
See, what's so weird, though, is it's not like they're a bad second half team because they've dominated the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't make any sense.
doesn't.
You would think, oh, well, maybe they over-adjust or maybe they under-adjust. But that's definitely not the case because if they did either one of those, then they would not dominate the fourth quarter like they do. So it is very perplexing. I still have yet to even come close to figuring it out.
Well, I mean, they did say that Nevada came out and was defending them differently in the third quarter, and Messingham and Connor Riley, after a couple possessions, put their heads together and figured out how to block it differently. So it just opened wide open again. And I'm with you. I don't understand it. I don't get it. But I will stay behind my claim that it's all Noah Johnson's fault for no logical reason, no evidence. I'm just throwing him under the bus.
Wow.
I know. He's typically the guy closest to the white hat.
Is he?
Look, I'm not sure, but I'm still throwing him under the bus. Don't doubt my evidence, even if it's not real.
We'll find out Saturday, I guess.
There we go.
Next question comes from K-Ned. Does the staff need to do a better job of anticipating and having plans for possible halftime adjustments by the opponent? Coach Kleiman mentioned a change Nevada made that took the offensive staff an entire quarter to counter, kind of like we were just talking about.
I don't know. It took them an entire quarter to counter. Just
I don't
probably settled in, started wearing them down. I think we're going to see K-State be a good fourth quarter team for one very significant reason. They play a lot more guys and they're fresher. It's what they want. It's part of the reason why they do it. I mean, I think it's one of those things that if K-State proves it works, you'll see other schools start doing it. These line changes, it'd drive me nuts as a player. Drive me crazy. I've been in for 2 plays. I'm coming back out. Oh, I'm going back in again? Okay. Just running and running. It'd drive me nuts. But it works for K-State, so I'm not doubting it. And they do look fresher in the fourth quarter.
One thing I found really interesting today, or I guess on Tuesday when Chris Kleiman was talking at his press conferences, he said, yeah, the players know when they're going to go in. They know what drive they're going to go in. And as a former player, it's very foreign to me because you're just sitting on the sideline like counting down, okay, it's the third drive. It's my drive to go in now. That's very strange to me. And I think it's awesome because it gets people involved. They have to stay focused into the game instead of you're just on the sideline and the coach comes over and says, hey, you're in. You know, you have a set time of, okay, this is when I'm going to go into the game. I'm going to come out on this drive. And it's like, you know, obviously not every single drive is scripted, but there is some sort of scripted, you know, plays and formations and personnel in the beginning part of the game like there always is. But for it to extend to personnel into the second and to the third drive, to me, it's just foreign. It's very foreign.
I think that's what it is. I think everything's over scripted. There's not enough flexibility. It's too rigid, you know, and sometimes that's a good thing. Follow the plan. You know, go with what we've prepared for. We're going to be okay in the end. But I think there's a little bit of an adjustment thing where they're just not doing it. I don't know how to put it, but like you said, if they're preparing personnel for, you know, the fourth drive of, you know, this half or whatever, it's so specific and so dependent on not having other guys get injured. Like there's so many variables moving, especially by the end of the game, to have everything completely scripted. It seems counterintuitive.
It looks like in the third quarter they have a script too, which is, you know, from all the football teams that I've been around and seen, you typically don't have a script coming out of halftime. It's just kind of, this is what we think is going to happen. This is this is our game plan for the second half. It's not, we're going to run these 3 plays coming out of halftime no matter what happens. Because in the first half, you do have a set of 10 plays that more likely than not, you're going to run. It looks like they do that in the second half.
I don't know.
Which, you know, I could be wrong. I'm completely speculating on that. I have no idea. But that's kind of what it looks like, which is pretty strange.
If someone's going to be wrong on this podcast, it's supposed to be me. Okay? Hey, remember what Joe Klanderman said about moving from the press box to the field? He felt like he was being too analytical with his coaching and not enough, you know, kind of getting the feel of the game. And I think that might apply to the offensive staff too. You just kind of got to feel how the game's going. Now, sometimes that's bad, and you just abandon what you prepared for because you get off script too much and it doesn't work very well. But sometimes you got to get off script because the script doesn't work.
Very interesting. Next question comes from Wildcat Pilot 88. Since Skyler went down, Deuce's supposed pitch count, Zach's favorite phrase.
Man, we got to stop that.
I didn't even bother editing it because I didn't know what word to use.
Deuce's supposed pitch count went from 15-ish to 25-ish. Is this sustainable for Deuce? Should 5 to 10 of those touches be distributed to Joe Irvin and Jacardier Wright?
I would say more to Jacardier. He had none. I don't know what's going on there. I don't like it. He won't be around next year at this pace, and I just think that's awful because he's a very good running back. I have a feeling he'll go somewhere and be successful. No, I say you keep Deuce on the field as much as you can. Now, what it surprised me at is they haven't slid him out into the slot as much. Have you noticed they haven't really thrown the ball?
I think that's coming.
That's exactly what I think we're going to see on Saturday.
I think
we're
coming.
going to see Deuce involved in the passing game a lot more because the strength of this Oklahoma State defense are those linebackers. And if you can have the linebackers worrying about Deuce Vaughn being in the slot instead of Joe Irvin being in the backfield, you might have something there. You just make them pick what poison they want.
Well, I mean, look how many times Deuce Vaughn starts in the slot and motions to the backfield. Mm-hmm. There's going to become a time where he doesn't motion to the backfield and he's going to stay in the slot. And I think that comes on Saturday, especially with the breakout game that Joe Irvin had. You could have both of those guys out there at the same time. You could have Jacardier Wright, Joe Irvin, and Deuce Vaughn, and just have Deuce Vaughn line up in the slot. And there's endless possibilities. You could start in the diamond formation and motion Deuce Vaughn out. There's so many things you can do with those guys on the field. I think that, honestly, if you're Courtney Messam, you need to play Deuce Vaughn in the slot more because it is such a mismatch on whoever's guarding him.
We've talked about rotations already this podcast. I'm surprised we haven't seen a similar rotation to what they did in 2019. You had James Gilbert start the game. That can be Deuce. Then you bring Jordan Brown in. That can be Joe Irvin. And then the third drive, your Harry Trotter is Jacardier Wright. And then you can leave Deuce out in the slot for the second two drives if you need him on the field, right. Or you can give him a break. There's nothing wrong with sitting Deuce for a little bit because if he's touching the ball 25 times a game, that's way too much, and you're not going to have him by the end of the year.
Yep.
So I think that, from a script standpoint, from a personnel and rotation standpoint, it worked in 2019, and now you have Deuce who's versatile. I feel like you got to do something similar to that.
I think they need to just you talked about Jacardier. They need to get him the ball.
Yeah.
If you put Jacardier Wright in Joe Irvin's position, I think he has the exact same success that Joe Irvin had on Saturday.
Yeah, and I don't think 25 is too much for Deuce. I think he's a compact kid. He doesn't take direct hits very often. He's in incredibly good shape. Being that compact means he probably has better tendons, ligaments, those type of things, because they're not elongated as much as a tall, lanky person. But I still would like to see the ball in Jacardier's hands more, and Joe Irvin's. I just would like to see the mixing of these talents without taking them off the field. Deuce needs to be on the field. I wish they'd just use him in the slot, just flat out use him as a slot receiver in some situations so he can be on the field. Here's my grand plan. Start him in the slot. Motion him back to the backfield. Put him in motion. Go to the other slot. Come back around, play tight end. Then displace the left tackle, and he plays left tackle. That'll really mess everyone up. There we go. That's my coaching.
Okay.
Fourth question comes from Exhausted Nihilist.
Cole just moved on. Cole just absolutely did not want anything to do with that.
I think Deuce Vaughn would be an amazing left tackle.
Yes.
I think Cooper Beebe would also be able to eat him for dinner.
Yes. Yeah, that's probably accurate.
Exhausted Nihilist asks, is it true that Briley Moore and Daniel Imatorbhebhe are sure-handed pass catchers, or is it just because that number 0 makes a perfect bullseye for the quarterback to aim for?
Oh, I love number 0. I'm so glad the NCAA allows it now.
It is a target. I think it is. I think there's something to it. It's a great place to throw a football.
Yeah, I like this transfer tight end tradition. They wear 0. I like it a lot. Although we were just discussing on before, they got a tight end commitment today. I'm wondering if they'll take another transfer at tight end.
Well, you got Imada Bebe and Lenners going that are going to be gone for sure.
Yeah, maybe they will. I mean, they like Wheeler. They like Connor Fox. They got some young guys that they do like. Ben Sinnott.
He had a nice catch. I think we're going to see him get involved a lot more in the offense. I mean, we talked about him on the podcast before he got hurt as somebody that could potentially make an impact this year. And
they love him.
He's going to find his way out onto the field, I have a feeling.
They love him. I think we're going to see him involved in the game plan for Oklahoma State.
To answer this question, though, I mean, I've been a little, I don't want to say unimpressed, but I was fully bought in on Bebe when after seeing him at fall camp, after talking to him. I mean, he's so smart. I mean, you talk to him, he's so well. He's the typical veteran.
Well, he's 24 years old. I mean, this is the one that blows me away. He graduated. He got his undergraduate degree in the summer of 2018. What?
That's incredible.
I mean, so he's obviously, I mean, that was his third year after 3 years at school, I think.
He's like 6 years removed from high school, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's in a different position in life. He's a little more worldly. He's got to be the only guy to play in 4 of the Power 5 football conferences in college football history.
That's a great trivia question right there.
He's played in,
Technically.
maybe he could petition and get a 5th season and go to an ACC school and just round it all out. I don't know. I like him a lot. I think he'll be more involved. I think he needs to be more involved. And what we saw Saturday was just a snippet of what he brings this team. That's a matchup issue. They had safeties that couldn't keep up with him. They had safeties that fell for a step out. I'm going to step this way, one fake, and he goes straight up the field, and he ran by him. It's a tight end. He's a special talent. He's going to play in the league.
I agree.
I mean, he's faster than what we saw last year from the position. I think he's got better hands. He hasn't been as involved as I thought he would be, but I think that also is to come.
Well, it's just like they haven't thrown the ball.
They haven't.
So, I mean, we can sit here until we're blue in the face and say, Phillip Brooks, Malik Knowles, Daniel Imada, all these guys need to get more involved. But unless they throw the ball, they can't. I mean, we saw what he could do against Stanford. He had a nice game against Stanford. It was what do you have, 3 or 4 catches? I mean, they only threw the ball 9 times you only completed 9 passes against Stanford. They completed 9 passes or 11 passes or something like that against Nevada this past weekend. So we really haven't seen what he can do, but I mean, just from the skill set, just from the plays he has made, there's so much more left in the tank.
He's fun. No doubt about it.
Last question of the first half comes from Herdez Joe. Who do you think separates themselves first, Will Howard or Jaron Lewis?
I think it's Will.
I think he already has.
Will's already separated.
Yeah, I think he already has.
I mean, if Will wasn't separated, we'd be in a full-blown quarterback controversy right now. The fact that it's not, okay. I get that Jaron Lewis, the coaches like him and he's good. Like, I don't think he's bad. I just think that the fact where Will Howard stands right now compared to where Jaron Lewis is with the development, I don't see Will ever losing the job.
I don't know about that. I'm just going to say it. I like Will Howard a lot. I think he's been unfairly criticized because he's a kid that's been in really bad situations, and he's handled them off the field like a champ. I mean, what? After the game Saturday, he ran over to the student section and yelled, "It's the best college football fans ever." I got news for you, students. You didn't deserve that compliment.
Nope.
Not from him. Not when you turned on him in a heartbeat and wanted a 4th-string quarterback to come in, or maybe 5th string. I like Will Howard a lot, but I'm just going to say this. Jaron Lewis has a upside that I don't even know if we understand right now. He has the biggest arm in the quarterback room. I've seen him make throws and warm-ups that I just don't understand. Now, granted, he's had understanding issues. He hasn't grasped the offense. He hasn't learned to do reads. He hasn't had maybe some of those developed quarterback skills you see because he's been such a good athlete. He's kind of relied on that a little bit. He can make a big throw. He can run the ball. I think there's something. He's 6'4". We always said he looked like Alex Delton quite a bit.
But he's taller.
But he's looking leaner and taller than we saw him when he was a true freshman, and he's wearing 5. I mean, it just looked like him. And I just think there's something special about this kid. And I suspect it's going to be a quarterback, but I don't know. Stay tuned. Saturday's going to be really interesting to me. If it doesn't go well for Will Howard, how long do they let that persist? Do they do what they did against Southern Illinois and said, he's our guy, we gave Jaron some time, and now we're just going to run the ball and try to get out of here or win? Or are they going to say, nope, we got to get points, we got to make something happen and put in Jaron Lewis? I know he handed off. I know he had some checks. I know he didn't do anything dramatic, but I thought both times he was in there, the offense looked like it was moving methodically, like they had a plan. They knew what they wanted to do. There was a good rhythm to everything. Everything seemed to click when he was in the game, and that we hadn't seen from Will. I mean, he had the 2-play scoring drive, and then he had 2 empty drives. And Jaron comes in, and everything just looked comfortable. Everyone looked like they knew what they were doing and why they were doing it. And I don't know if that's quarterback or just down in distance and those things. I like him, and I think there's something going on here. They didn't just gift him to 2 series. They wanted to see something because they know there's something with him.
See, I agree with you on pretty much everything you said, Fitz. The one thing that worries me with Jaron is what Coach Kleiman talked about on Tuesday, when I think Goins might have asked him, well, what specifically can Jaron Lewis work on? Like what specifically is holding him back from taking that next step? He said grasping the offense, just feeling the reads, and I think he might have said something specific related to, managing the game. What troubles me is that they felt like a Will Howard who didn't have any offseason with the team last year versus a Jaron Lewis who had spent it was his second year in the system, having a normal year his first year. Granted, he didn't have a spring ball, but still having been in the system, they felt like Will Howard was above him.
Right.
And then this year, Skylar gets hurt. They both have the same offseason. It's Jaron Lewis's 3rd year in the system, and they still felt like Will Howard was above him. If the talent is so close and they feel like Will Howard is, grasping the system more, but Jaron Lewis maybe has more talent, that gap between understanding the system to where Jaron Lewis is and Will Howard has to be great. Because there's no way if they view Jaron Lewis as somebody that can potentially change a game, there's no way that he shouldn't be playing. I worry that the grasp of the offense he's so far behind the other quarterbacks that it's going to take him a while to catch up. That's what I worry about.
I don't know if he's that far behind anymore. I think he finally woke up and closed that gap, or they wouldn't have played him. And this isn't a Daniel Sams, Jake Waters thing. This is farther back. This is El Roberson, Mark Dunn, all over again. Mark Dunn was the system guy, the guy that could throw it and was smart, understood football. And El would go in and do things that drove everyone crazy. He'd throw interceptions, but then he would just do things like, well, you cannot replicate that. And what happened is eventually he learned the offense. He learned how to read defenses. Plus, he had all those dynamic playmaking abilities. It's going to be it's a different world now because it's so easy to transfer. Charlie Brewer, your phone's ringing. It's so easy to transfer now and so easy to give up, quit, and go somewhere else. I admire Jaron Lewis for not doing it, but how long will he stick it out? I mean, he's got another quarterback behind him right now on the depth chart who's everyone's raving about, and they should. He's one of the highest recruits K-State's had in a while, Jake Rubley. Will Howard's getting the playing time. This little window of time with Skylar out is really important to these quarterbacks. A lot will be decided by what they do in these games without Skylar Thompson. We've had one sampling, and they both passed in my book. They both did what they needed to do in the course of that Nevada game. If we see them both again on Oklahoma State, what's that mean? I suspect we will see them again against Oklahoma. I have no information on that. I'm just guessing that they're going to take their lumps with Oklahoma They know they don't want Skyler out there against Oklahoma. Oklahoma's out for blood after losing 2 games in a row, and I wouldn't trust them with it. I wouldn't trust Oklahoma State with Skyler playing. I mean, K-State might be down to the 4th quarterback by the end of the Oklahoma State game. They play dirty ball. There's no doubt about it. They're very physical, but we've had the video of some of the nonsense, twisting ankles in the pile and spearing Colin Klein in the helmet in a touchdown pile. How that was never a penalty, I don't understand. But I think they'll take the week off and then go to the Iowa State game and see what happens. We have a dog drinking in the background?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's what you get when we lose our office due to COVID and we end up at home. That drink was brought to you by The Fridge, and we'll be back with the second half of the PowerCat Questions podcast.
GoPowerCat.com's PowerCat podcast continues after this short break.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. At Mint Mobile, we like to do the opposite of what Big Wireless does. They charge you a lot, we charge you a little. So naturally, when they announced they'd be raising their prices due to inflation, we decided to deflate our prices due to not hating you. That's right. We're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month slows. Full terms at mintmobile.com.
Selling a little or a lot? Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage, to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify's here to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. From their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout. 15% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms. And sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the US. And Shopify is the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning 24/7 help is there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow, grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast.
Welcome back to the PowerCat podcast. Now, let's return to the GPC studios.
Welcome back to the PowerCat Questions podcast. Somehow our schedule has gotten screwed up today. We are here at
It's 9 o'clock.
It's 9 o'clock at night recording this podcast. I don't know what went wrong here. Well, let's be honest. We had to accommodate Cole Midnight Carmody's class schedule because Tuesday's his big day. The guy's trying to get a degree, folks. He wants to be a teacher and form young mimes. What, mimes or
Mimes?
I think.
Young mimes?
Yeah, isn't that what teachers do, form young mimes? Anyhow, he's going to be a fine teacher and coach, so we're going to let him do that, and we'll accommodate him. But then I jacked around and got a bunch of other stuff done while they sat here and watched me, and now we're late. Anyhow, we're sponsored by The Fridge. I figure since we're running late, I shouldn't be babbling on about why I was running late because now we're running. Oh, here I go again. Our segment sponsors are Tanner's and the High-Low. Please support local businesses and make sure you stop into The Fridge. Tell Kevin and company you heard about them on the PowerCat podcast and then ask for Die Hard on VHS.
I think I'm going to go by near there after we're done.
Oh, you're going to have that chicken sandwich you were mentioning?
Yeah, the chicken sandwich taco from Taco Bell.
Oh, there was an ad.
Ba-dung.
Stop by in Manhattan to the Bill Snyder Taco Bell, right across from The Fridge.
Bill Snyder Family Taco Bell.
Here we go. More questions from Wabash Station. Cole Carmody.
From the dot two, how big of a loss is Khalid Duke?
Big loss, but that's their position where they can have those losses.
Like, it's if you're going to lose one position guy,
Bad.
It sucks, but
There's like 5 guys on the team that I think are really big difference makers. He's one of them. But Nate Matlack comes in and makes plays.
He looked good.
So
He looked really good.
I mean, he ran down Carson Strong from behind and stopped him. He was going to get a first down.
I don't think there's anybody else on the defensive line that can do that.
Maybe Khalid Duke.
Maybe.
yeah.
Yep, it was impressive. So, yeah. Is K-State better with him? Yes. Can K-State replicate what Khalid Duke can do in many ways? Yeah. I think where the fall off is finishing the sack. Duke has a sense for that, and I think there's something to learn at the college level. His quarterbacks are a little more savvy, and just little movements can throw you off, and Matlack hasn't gotten there. But, yeah, that sucks. That's horrible.
I feel so terrible for him. I mean, he was bound to have a really, really good year. So that sucks for him. But, I mean, as far as K-State goes, you know who was having a better year was Felix Anaduke Uzama now.
Oh, you threw in the hyphen name.
Yep.
I've decided I'm not using it. I'm not. I know it's on his jersey, guys, but
I even wrote it.
They have updated it in the media guide.
Yeah.
But
Can we call him Felix?
I call him Felix a lot. Let's be honest. But I have to. Okay, this is what it's about. Damn it! I didn't want to confess this. Okay, I'm really lazy, and I have to go into the 24/7 database and change it. If we're going to start writing it that way, to put in our hot links to his bio, it has to have it in there.
Yeah.
That's a commitment I'm not willing to make at this point.
Sorry, Felix.
I'm not. I mean, I remember when Jordan Henriquez was something else. Jordan Henriquez
Roberts.
Roberts. I was going with Jones. I don't see. That's the point. It's the first one you always remember.
Yeah.
He was Jordan Enriquez Roberts first, though, right?
Yeah, he was.
That's how I know him. I don't know who Jordan Enriquez is. Who's that guy?
Yeah, J-O-R. Hold on, J-H.
The O doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't make sense.
The O never made sense.
Huh.
We're on a tangent, but I'm answering the question. Felix, as we were talking about, has having a better year than Khalid Duke was up to this point. Now, he didn't do very much on Saturday, but he had 3 sacks against Southern Illinois, or as Chris Kleiman calls them, Southern. And then against Stanford, what did he have? I believe he had 1.5, maybe.
Yep, I think so.
So he had a better year up to that point. If he can continue to progress, he will be that guy that quote-unquote replaces Wyatt Hubert. I don't think K-State's going to have any trouble quote-unquote replacing Wyatt Hubert, because I actually think they're so much better on the defensive line this year than they were last year. But Nate Matlack brings another element. He brings the speed that Khalid Duke had. He's definitely a little bit more raw around the edges, but I think he gets some game action, and he's not going to be that far off of what Khalid Duke was. I really don't think so.
Felix was a gray shirt who was awarded a scholarship that someone didn't make it, and so he came in. He was like an afterthought recruit. That's how weird recruiting is. This dude from the Salem witchcraft paper in Oregon, whatever Oregon.
Different Salem, but
Yeah, different parts of the country.
You tried.
I'm just being a smartass. I guess he cited ranking USC based on recruiting rankings. I'm like, what's that got to do with games? Anyhow, but he's a perfect example of that. This kid can play. I did radio out of Oklahoma City Tuesday, and they asked about Deuce Vaughn and how good he is, and I'm like, he's perfect for Kansas State. He's got a defect about his profile. It's not grades and it's not attitude, it's height. So nobody wanted him. He's a 3-star running back, but he plays like a 5-star. That's what K-State thrives on. He didn't become a great running back because at K-State, he arrived a great running back that nobody else wanted because he was too short to play at college. We know that's BS. So these are the kind of guys that K-State has long thrived on, and I appreciate the fact that Chris Kleiman seems to still understand that. I still would like some more 4-stars, though. Let's get some more 4 stars. And I mentioned this on a daily delivery. This new rule that KNED put up the link for, and I appreciate it because I had missed it, and so I did a DD on it about the transfer portal. If you lose up to 7 guys departing your program, you can replace them with other transfer portal guys that don't count towards your scholarships. Folks, this is huge for Kansas State. It's enormous for a program like Kansas. I mean, essentially, you get a recruiting class now of 32 if you have that many guys depart, which when you're building happens. It happens everywhere, but if you're a program that's in transition, we've seen it with K-State basketball. If you're in transition, guys are heading out the door. The fact now in football, you can add in 7 transfer portal, like swaps, basically, and not count towards your recruiting class is enormous for these football programs like Kansas State. It's enormous because you can go out and find tried and true guys that you know. Russ Yeast. You can go find those guys. Timmy Horn. Find them at a lower level. They can play up, plug them in, and they're not going to count. Wow. It's big.
Next question comes from Jedediah. Is this week's game against Oklahoma State a trap game for K-State?
No. Trap games.
No.
Trap games are Southern Illinois. You just beat Stanford. You're looking ahead to Nevada, and Southern's a pretty good team. That's a trap game.
Yeah,
they know what they're getting into at Oklahoma State.
They're not looking over Oklahoma State and have OU circled on the calendar.
Yeah.
That isn't like this program, and this season just doesn't fit like that. Oklahoma State's not a program you can overlook.
I don't worry about any of that with this group.
No, I don't either.
I mean, this team...
They have my faith until they screw it up.
Sure. I mean, but they have a chip on their shoulder. They seem like they come to practice every day and they work hard, and they seem very team-centered, which we know was not always the case.
It's the revenge tour.
Which I think is awesome, by the way.
I really appreciate the entire metaphor that Noah Johnson's come up with. I don't appreciate it that it's recycled from Butler Community College, but okay, I can deal with it.
He didn't have to tell us that.
I know. He just kind of ruined it for me. But the fact that he's now saying this bus has no rear view mirrors.
I love how there's a storyline. The storyline is advancing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it has you don't look back on this bus. Personally, I think you need to check your mirrors, kids. If you're out there driving, make sure you have the mirrors adjusted so you can see what's behind you. Noah Johnson, in the metaphor world of this bus, has removed all the mirrors. Our safety is dropped, but we're going forward and we're doing it fast. That's Noah's metaphor, and I'm embracing it. Even if it's got a grizzly bear in the bus, because he's left over from the Butler. Okay, let's move on. I'm rambling.
The Butler, as if it's a person.
The Butler.
The Butler. Okay. The Butler. Jedediah wants to know again, Oklahoma State has allowed an average 2.6 yards per carry this season. How will K-State need to adjust their offensive game plan to have successful drives?
Well,
can we look at who Oklahoma State played, though? I mean, they have not seen a running back like Deuce Vaughn.
No.
They played Missouri State, they played Tulsa, and they played Boise State.
And I don't know that Boise's that interested in running the ball. Tulsa's been effective. Tulsa played with Ohio State for a half, for God's sakes. I think Tulsa's pretty decent this year. But, yeah, you got to look into schemes. I think this defense for Oklahoma State is much better than it has been. I'm happy for Joe Bob Clements, one of my favorite guys in the world. And so I'm glad he's seeing some success, and I hope that defense improves so he can get a coordinator job like he deserves eventually. But K-State runs a more complex running game. They can do a lot of things out of that running game that can defeat your preparation. They shift. I mean, if you understand football, when they're shifting people, they're not just trying to figure out what coverage you're in. They're actually moving your players around to get them where they want them to be. I mean, that's exactly the call against Stanford, that the Deuce Vaughn long touchdown. They had a shift, they moved a guy, and they knew right then and there the play would work if they blocked it right at the point of attack, and Deuce had to make one guy miss, which he did easily. So, yeah, I'm not – it's not going to be as easy as it was Saturday to run the ball. K-State, when they were in sync, were just churning it. It was amazing. I loved how Chris Kleiman said it on Tuesday. They were almost letting us run. I think they were so misaligned, and so they're going to have to throw the ball more. K-State will have to throw the ball more to keep Oklahoma State honest, but they will be effective running the ball.
I think if I'm Oklahoma State, I'm playing zone coverage 100%.
And they're almost all man.
Right. And, I think that's what you have to do if you're Oklahoma State, though, because you are going up against a quarterback in Will Howard. And if you want to throw Jaron Lewis into that mix, who, let's be honest, have struggled at times going for the first, second, third options. When you play man coverage as a quarterback, as long as he's not double covered, there's a chance he's going to be open if he's one-on-one, right? So when you try and confuse them and you want to add in the blitzing factor, usually teams blitz when they run man. Well, K-State's offensive line has done an excellent job at keeping the quarterback upright. I mean, I can't think of a time where they've given up more than a sack a drive.
Impressive.
It's been really good. So, sure, I think if you're Oklahoma State, you got to play zone. But at the same time, if you play zone, then K-State, typically teams that play zone, it makes it easier to run the ball. So, it's kind of which end of the sword are you going to fall on if you're Oklahoma State trying to stop this K-State rushing attack? Because K-State's rushing attack, also, you mentioned it being complex, but their offensive line, it's so simple. They run inside zone, they run outside zone, they run power. But they're so effective at it. The pre-snap motion causes so much confusion. It's just people can hate on Courtney Messingham all they want, but with the cards he's been dealt this year, I think he's done an excellent job.
I agree. I'm not a Messingham hater. I think he gets in ruts with his play calling at times, but we've seen him pull himself out of it this year. The most glaring example to me was Liberty Bowl. He just got himself in a rut, and then it became desperation time, and he opened it up, and things worked. So, yeah, I think he gets a little too conservative at times, but he's needed to be conservative over the last 7 quarters of K-State football.
Agreed. From Wildcat Pilot 88, if K-State's defense continues to look this good, will Joe Kleinerman find 1 million reasons to coach somewhere else, a la Scotty Hazelton?
He probably needs more experience.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Experience and I think loyalty to Chris.
Yeah, I think it would have to be significant, I think, to drag him out of here. One, from what I understand, his wife loves it here, which is always a factor guys don't quite calculate in. And two, as Zach said, he's in this position because of Chris Kleiman. Chris chose him to come with him and then chose him to be the new D coordinator without, very much experience at that after Scotty Hazelton left.
He's good. He's really good.
I think he's really good. And he's fantastic hair. His hair last Thursday was annoying.
It's incredible.
It was so on
give you that.
point. I'm just like, man, I wish I had hair. If I had hair, I wanted to look like Joe Kleinerman's. In fact, I might Photoshop Kleinerman's hair onto my head.
Like the Trump hair?
Like the Trump hair?
I saw that pop up this last week. Somebody brought that back up.
I think it was Riley.
Yeah,
it was scary. This was during the primaries of 2016. I Photoshopped Trump's hair off, and what was funny about it is, if you know anything about Photoshop, the images might be totally different sizes, and the hair might be like slightly off kilter. No, it was amazing. I lifted Trump's hair off of Photoshop, and it literally just set down on my head perfectly for the size photo, and then I just kind of Photoshopped in the edges to make it look pretty. It looks fantastic. It's the best hair I've ever had. And it's Trump's hair. So that shows how bad my hair's been. Let's move on.
I hope we answered your question, Wildcat Pilot 88. That was a pretty good tangent by Fitz, but we'll keep it.
Joe Kleinerman's hair is fantastic.
From KSU number 1, should the conference talk with ESPN regarding this week?
What is there to talk about?
Okay, here's my real problem. ESPN owns the third tier rights right now for 8 of the 10 schools. This is not a third tier game. That's what I don't understand, why this has become a problem. Why is this game on ESPN Plus? This is a tier 2 game or a tier 1 game. This is not a third tier game in any way. Southern Illinois was the third tier game.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
Nevada. Maybe.
Nevada could be, but in the past it was only one game that could be. I mean, the Longhorn Network technically only has the rights to one game. They buy an extra game once in a while, usually Iowa State for some weird reason. But this shouldn't be on the plus. It shouldn't be. I don't understand why it is. So here's another tangent for you. I'm watching the College Football Daily Show, whatever they call it, on ESPN. And there was a younger analyst on there. I have no idea who he was. Never seen him before. He was dressed like he just woke up from a nap. But he's talking about they're buying and selling. I don't mind that both him and David, what's his name?
Who's on game day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pollock.
Pollock.
Yeah.
David Pollock. They both were selling K-State at 3-0. I don't mind that. I think the line was, can these teams get to 9 wins or whatever? I don't even know. I didn't hear the setup, but I just happened to trip across him talking about K-State. This dude actually says, well, K-State could trip into winning 9 games because they're in the Big 12. ESPN, what the hell's going on? Now you have detached yourself from the reality of what's happening on the field. Have you looked at what the Big 12 is doing in the non-con? And are you really going to hold the rest of the Big 12 accountable for Texas having a horrific loss to Arkansas when Texas leaving would hurt the conference? How does that make sense in any way? He took like 3 cheap shots on K-State in a 30-second segment, and I'm like, what the hell, man? Okay, you don't think K-State's a good team this year. I get it. But what team in the history of college football in a major conference has been lucky to win 9 games just by fortune? They did it by mistake, is what he said. What the hell are you talking about? ESPN, it's not even transparent what you're doing. It's blatantly obvious what you're doing. I'm just sick of it, man.
You know what game needs to be on ESPN Plus this weekend? It's SMU and TCU. That's the game. If you're going to put a game of 2 teams that are undefeated on ESPN Plus, you need to put that game on ESPN Plus. But they're not going to do it because it's the Dallas market.
It's the Dallas market, and plus it's 2 conferences. And anytime you get 2 conferences, your ratings kind of typically go up unless it's the Pac-12 because they don't give a crap.
Or what about Iowa State at Baylor? That's another game. That's a game. If you're going to put a team on there,
see,
why not? Baylor is lower on the list.
But Iowa State's highly ranked.
I think it's a better.
I think
K-State, Oklahoma State. I think you have 2 fan bases that are going to tune into the game, and it's the most optimal way for ESPN to make money off of this contract with the Big 12.
I can see why this came to pass. I understand why it came to pass. The pecking order took place. ESPN's made it very clear. They got both OU and Texas, and they put them on their ABC mothership. I get what happened here. Iowa State's higher ranked. You mentioned TCU, SMU. It just fell down to ending up being, and Duke goes to the ACC network. This was the leftover. My problem isn't that this game was the last one in the pecking order and ended up on ESPN Plus. It shouldn't be on ESPN Plus. There shouldn't be a game this week on ESPN Plus.
Yeah.
It wasn't that way before ESPN Plus. It's not like you just decided, we don't have a slot for Oklahoma State, Kansas State. We're not going to show it. No, you found a spot for it in the past. But Zach's also right. I think K-State, because a credit to K-State's athletics department, does a great job of self-producing baseball, volleyball, and K-State fans are K-State fans. They're not KU basketball fans. Oh, by the way, we have a football team. Or Oklahoma football fans. I think we play basketball. K-State fans are K-State fans. If they see women's soccer is on ESPN Plus, there's a good chance they're going to stop and watch some of it. Mm-hmm. They're fans through and through. That means they probably have a lot of K-State subscribers on that. And so they see on their platform, and there's a lot of similarities between these fan bases. Probably Oklahoma State fans have been watching ESPN Plus and probably thought, well, we'll have the most viewers possible with these 2 schools.
I mean, when you have a series like they did last year with Mike Gundy, and I don't even remember what it was called, but it was just like the miles to go with KU, but no KU fans are tuning into to that.
Wasn't that calling Mullet Over?
I don't think that's what the pun was, but
I think that was it. Mull it over. Mull it over with Mike Gundy.
See, my thoughts on ESPN Plus, and I should have done a hear me out like I did with Will Howard from.
Okay.
I should have posted this on the board.
I like your hear me outs.
But I would rather be on ESPN Plus than ESPNU. I think that ESPN Plus is a better home for football games than ESPNU. And when you look at the pecking order, it probably goes ABC, ESPN, Fox, FS1, ESPN2. Those are the 5 channels and the order of preference that you would want to be on. Then you get down into the lower ESPNs. Would you rather be on ESPNU? Where if you're thinking about, national exposure, we want to be on cable. Well, guess what? Cox, for whatever reason, still has ESPNU as this upper level tier where you got to pay extra each month. It doesn't make everybody's home like AT&T, whatever package you get ESPN, they bundle them all together. You don't get that on Cox, which is like the market leader probably in Kansas as far as cable goes, at least in Manhattan. Mm-hmm. So at least with ESPN Plus, you can subscribe yourself. You don't have to call your cable company. As long as you have internet and some sort of device to put it on your TV, you don't have to put it on your TV if you don't want to. You can watch it on your phone, iPad, whatever you want to watch it on, you can sign up that day and get immediate access. And as long as your internet's good, and as long as ESPN isn't screwing up, which they did in the past, but I think they've got it somewhat okay. I hate the ESPN app, but as long as it's working, it's crystal clear. But I would rather when you have a game on ESPNU versus ESPN Plus, the people going to ESPNU are the people who go to ESPN Plus. Nobody's stopping and channel surfing and going to ESPNU and stopping on a football game and saying, yeah, that's the one I want to watch, when there's definitely other games on ABC, Fox, CBS, ESPN. There's better football games for the most part.
Let me ask you a question. We're into the weeds now because I'm just curious. Do you think there's sunk costs into maintaining a cable channel like ESPNU? Is it possible the day will come when ESPN says we're not going to continue to maintain this, both news and you and all this?
I'm surprised they're still branded the way they are. And they haven't rebranded them to ESPN3, ESPN4, or, ESPN college football, ESPN NBA. Well, they
still use the ESPN3 branding for some conferences. I find it very confusing.
Slightly.
It's on Plus, but
it's not ESPN Plus, though. If you're subscribed to ESPN through your cable package, the way I see it.
Yeah, that's what it has been. I think ESPN3 is pretty much done at this point.
Well, I don't know
smaller conferences.
But yeah. I will amend what you said to one thing. FS1 has slipped well below any ESPN channel.
Fair enough.
The ratings have been trash. K-State Stanford ratings were awful.
Is Tim
Brando?
And
where's my notes?
For Oklahoma, not Oklahoma State.
Dang it, I don't know. It probably is.
Yeah, 2:30. So
I know this. Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt like doing K-State games. They've had a number of exciting K-State games, and Deuce Vaughn has got to be fun for Gus.
He's got to come up with another nickname.
It's funny as they lost 5 games with Gus Johnson at the call, and then they go down to OU and finally win that one.
Yeah.
What do you know? Next question comes from big time Timmy Jim.
I love his name.
Is it time to end pass outs and have beer sales at Bill Snyder Family Stadium? I am baffled why we are holdouts. Do we know what the issue is?
No, I don't know what the issue is.
The issue, I don't know. I don't. I just don't know. I think
maybe the issue is you don't have a practice facility where a whole bunch of parking spots and tailgates are. So now once you build that, there's less places for people to go at halftime. So then you'll shut the gates then. Well, I don't know. Maybe that's it.
If this question is in response to one of the tweets that was sent out and kind of viral amongst K-State Twitter with the side of the opposite of the press box with the fans that were noticeably gone during the beginning of the second half. If this question is in response to that, let me just say, you cannot blame anybody who left or who went up in the shade, because that's something you couldn't see in that picture, that if you were at the game, you could see especially in the student section. Everybody moved up and went into the shade. You couldn't see that in that picture.
No.
It was 100 degrees outside the entire game. You can't talk about people
91, but
leaving.
And it was a midday game. This is where K-State screwed up. The game was on ESPN Plus. Play it at 11 or 6.
Yeah.
You can't do that in early September. You just can't. And I know one's the preference, but the sun was over the top of the stadium the entire game. It never gave relief to anyone. So it was third quarter, maybe second quarter. I got up to grab a drink because it's really tough up there in the press box. You get thirsty. And 2 paramedic EMTs, I don't know what they were back there getting a drink too because they were overheated. And I go, how's your day going? And he goes, we're wall-to-wall overheats. And I mean, this isn't even fourth quarter. The game is still in the middle of the game. He goes, we're dealing with so many people passing out. Those silver benches on top of white concrete, just turn that into an oven out there.
Yeah.
And it's an issue.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real issue. But I don't blame him. I'm a person that gets mad about fans leaving. Saturday, I didn't know. As soon as I looked down to the Veneer complex and I saw every bit of shade was occupied, I knew what was going on.
Yep.
when I first saw that tweet, I actually was in favor of the tweet. I was like, yeah, because I'm down on there on the field. I'm on the visitor's sideline. That's my preferred sideline for really anywhere, as long as, you know, it's usually the least crowded sideline. But that's out on the heat. I was wearing a giant non-breathable photo vest and lugging around a camera. I wouldn't say I was struggling because I prefer heat over cold if I'm going to be outside doing work. But
you're a golfer.
Yeah, I'll play golf in 100-degree heat. It's fine. You know, I can live with it. I didn't think it was the hottest game that I had ever done. I could have sworn that there were hotter games, or at least the way they were. And there's definitely been some hotter 6 p.m. kicks. Like Louisiana Lafayette, I think in 2013 was 101 at 6 o'clock, I believe. But I looked it up. That game, the finishing temperature was tied for the hottest temperature of any game in the last 10 years. So yeah, they played it at the absolute wrong time. Did a 180. I would have said, yeah, the fans should have stayed there. No, it was the hottest game, at least mid-afternoon, and the way, temperatures usually about 4 or 5 o'clock in Kansas. That's usually the high for the day, especially in September. And they chose the absolute worst time of day to do it, and they got extremely unlucky too. I can't believe that the fact that 91, other than these 6 o'clock start times where there's a little bit higher of a temperature, but at least as far as a sustained temperature goes, hottest game ever.
It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable.
Last question of the podcast comes from KSU number 1. This might be the best question we've had so far today. To sandstorm or not to sandstorm? That is the question.
Zach,
you got to do it.
You got to do.
You got to figure out a way to quit having the FKU chant over university traditions. And I get that some people say, "Oh, sandstorm, that's a university tradition."
No, it's not.
No, it's not. But bring back sandstorm. The whole reason we're in this mess, and Pickles brought this up on the site on that thread about the chant. It's like, give them sandstorm and they'll alleviate the problems. And I agree.
How long has this fight been going on?
Since John Curry.
Really?
Yeah.
Probably 2015, 2016.
We have an entirely new student body.
They play
an entirely new student body, and they've picked up the fight too.
I don't remember. My freshman year would have been I came 18? Here second semester, so the end of 2018, beginning of 2019, and they played Sandstorm, I think. It was the game against West Virginia where K-State in basketball was down by 21 points at 21 points at halftime. They were down by 22 at some point. They came all the way back and won. They played Sandstorm during that game. Sure, and it was not playing KU or anything, and I think they even played it during the KU game. I don't remember the FKU chant during the Wabash really becoming prominent until 2019 when Gene Taylor came out and said, hey, we're not going to play this. Because they played Sandstorm after K-State won the Big 12 championship in basketball and beat Oklahoma. They played Sandstorm. That's the last time I remember.
It sparingly. They've used Sandstorm sparingly. They got rid of it in the mid 2010, whatever we want to call it, the mid 2010s, and it's just been kind of we can't play it and then they'll chant it at something else like Sweet Caroline or whatever. It's just
people don't know. I don't know if it was you that brought this up or somebody else brought it up in the thread, but it was like current students have no idea that chant originated to Sandstorm. They think it's because they think that's what you say during the Wabash Cannonball.
And they'll do it at the bars.
Right.
I mean, that's really probably where it lives is the bars.
I'm just going to say it. And this is going to be a get off my lawn moment. Students, you got to stop. This is a cherished K-State tradition, and you're taking a giant heap and dump on it. And it is pissing people off. It's pissing people off. You're not going to win the argument this way because now you're making enemies. I have wanted them to play Sandstorm, and now I'm doing a 180 like, well, if you can't, no, you can't. You can't give in to them at this point.
The thing that's so frustrating.
It just amazes me that this would even come up. I don't understand how you can be a Kansas State person and ever think to mention your rival in your most important fight song.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it. I don't understand. But I'll say this. Why do I suspect that the people that were so upset about the word F being said to Sandstorm are the same people who don't want the pass out to this stadium because they always go to their tailgate? I just have a feeling it's the same crowd that has got Gene Taylor's email address wearing out. I don't know. What were you going to say?
Well, see, this is what I've come to conclusion on, and I've talked to many people. See, all my friends that are students are diehard fans that come to the game. They sit in the first few rows. They don't live at the tailgate, which is where, let's be honest, a majority of the students live at the tailgate.
Right.
They're the ones that say, we couldn't even hear it during the fight song. Nobody around us is saying it. It's the people in the back that come in 3 minutes before kickoff when the band just gets in there and they're drunk off their minds. They're the ones that are starting it.
That's not how that phrase goes, by the way.
And remember 2 years ago where Frank Trace marched the band right off the field when they started the chant. He just stopped playing it and they left. And I think it went away for the most part after that. Frank Trace, where are you at now? It's your song, and you hear the chants.
It was loud on Saturday. It was louder on Saturday than it was the Saturday before.
And it was loud on the Saturday before. Mm-hmm. This is insane. It's tarnishing university traditions, and at that point, it's just ridiculous. And Adam K63 said on the boards, kick him out, and it had downvotes, and it's like
I would kick him out too.
Until the conference or some governing body, because they'll do stuff like this in soccer in Europe. UEFA will ban fans or ban sections of fans from coming to games when they do something stupid. Or they chant something stupid at a player. They'll ban entire stadiums if something like that happens. When will that happen in America? When will that happen in the Big 12? And when will somebody decide, hey, K-State, you need to be accountable for being idiots on television and in your stadium?
It's not even for the whole rivalry thing, right? It just it represents the university. If you're a recruit with your mom on campus and you are on the sidelines trying to take in the atmosphere, which, by the way, has been awesome the first two games. I think it's important to say that the fans are showing up and the overall atmosphere has been good. But the one stain on it has been that. If you're a recruit on campus and that's the first thing that you hear.
Yeah, I agree.
We're playing Southern Illinois. Why are we saying that as students? I can say that because I'm a student. Why are we as students tarnishing our reputation over something that has nothing to do with the university? And quite honestly, when they play KU, you shouldn't even chant it then.
Well, I'm going to suggest the athletic department, and they take all my suggestions and quickly throw them away. But I'm going to suggest this, that you put together a video explaining what the tradition is of the Nichols Fire. We have that photo right here on our wall. It was the one piece of music that survived because the band director took it home in his briefcase to try to arrange it. Because it's a different song. K-State plays it differently than most schools. So when the band went to the next game, this is the story. It might be a wives' tale, but this is the story has survived through history. There's some people that say, hold on, those dates don't add up. Okay, that's fine. But this is what they played over and over at the next basketball game because they had the music. All the rest of the sheet music and instruments were gone because they were all inside Nichols Gym. Whoops. And so it literally has been an important part of this university for more than 60 years probably. When was the fire?
I think it's 50, more than 50, because the 50th anniversary happened a few years ago, and it would have been cool to play Syracuse because I think that was the next team that they would have played it at.
Yeah.
But no, nobody cared.
Well,
Nobody cared.
1968.
It was 68. Okay. I was thinking it was earlier. But yeah, it was during the old Vietnam stuff, so it would have been about then. So yeah, it's been a little more than 50 years. It's been an important part of the history of really post-World War II K-State athletics. And now the students chant the F word with the rival's name in the middle of it.
Thank you for listening to the PowerCat Podcast. Make sure you're subscribing to our show at Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts. PowerCat Podcast. All rights reserved. GoPowerCat.com.
With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.